In this week's episode, we're going to focus on an issue plaguing consoles.
As we discuss the growing concern around Microsoft's tiny console potentially holding back the entire generation, we ask, should Microsoft abandon the Xbox Series S? I'm Anthony.
And I'm Barry, and this is episode 71 of the Retro Gaming Dads podcast, the podcast for everything retro and retro-inspired. So, as we always start, what have you been playing?
I've been playing Grounded, Wreckfest. I played a bit of Immortals Phoenix Rising, and I played a bit of that Disneyland Dream Valley. I can't remember what it's called again.
Oh yeah, the Animal Crossing ripoff.
Yes. I saw Samson decided to download it because he fancied trying it. And I thought, I'll help him out. I've not got an account myself, but I think I actually might try on mine. It looks like a nice little fun game. And
seemed all right. I played about an hour of it through the streaming.
yes.
I still say that Scrooge McDuck is a fantastic parallel to Tom Nook.
In all fairness, Scrooge McDuck's always been,
a Scrooge.
Yeah, big old Scrooge. So it fits. It's a good character to put in that one. What have you been playing? I know you've been playing your Steam Deck a little bit, haven't you?
I've been playing on it quite a bit, actually. I've been playing Grounded through Xbox streaming. As well as that, I've been playing Vampire Survivor. I keep going to say Vampire Savior, and they're two completely different games. And I probably played that a little bit more than I should have, to be honest. Although, I have actually upgraded my Steam Deck with a larger internal SSD.
Nice. So more storage, more games.
Yeah, and I even put Windows 11 on it.
Ooh.
And it runs. Well, it runs.
Yeah, I was about to say, how does it run?
Performance-wise, it seems fine. However, the user interface on a little tiny 7-inch screen or whatever it is on the Steam Deck and big fat fingers, it's far from ideal. I might put SteamOS back on it.
Okay.
I've actually put Wreckfest as well as Grounded and Phantasy Star on it. I've not played Phantasy Star yet. Grounded runs fine. Wreckfest runs fine. We're even playing it a bit on our lunch and work today. It was being passed around.
Okay.
A certain someone who I won't name, but I know will eventually get up to this episode and listen to this, jinx my Steam Deck by looking over my shoulder and go, "Oh, right, does it run really well?" I'm like, yeah, look at it. It looks great. It runs fantastic on Wreckfest.
Yeah.
And he goes, "Oh, do you get sound?" I'm like, "Yeah, I've just turned it down." And I turned it up. And then he went, "And it doesn't have any problems." And then it blue screened.
Wait, so
I was like,
he jinxed it.
"What have you just done to it?"
It's like he knew something was going to happen.
It's the only time it blue screened.
He was obviously asking because he knew something was going to happen. Surely he knew something might happen if he could.
Must have had a premonition that it was going to crash. And he thought, "Do you know what? I'll play with him."
I'm guessing he liked it.
Yeah, before I threw it on him. Apart from that, I've been playing quite a bit on the Steam Deck. Unfortunately, don't tell anyone. I was thinking about pre-ordering Sonic Frontiers on the Xbox because I can't wait till Christmas for the Switch version. Oh yeah, I'm seeing loads of things going, "Oh, we've got every single cutscene in the game, and here's the secret final boss." I'm like, I don't want to see anything. I don't think I'll survive until Christmas, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's not even out yet, is it?
No, it's not out. It's not out
So
for another 2 weeks.
How have they already got all the cutscenes?
I have no idea. I keep going on YouTube. It's like Sonic Frontiers, complete movie, every cutscene. I'm like, I don't want to see it. I don't want to see anything about the game.
Don't tempt me to click this link.
Oh no, I'm not tempting, but I know what happened with the Avengers Infinity War.
Just like
when it was just scrolling through YouTube,
yeah,
and it was like, "Infinity War dies," and I'm like, "What? I haven't even seen the film yet. Why did you do that to me?"
Just to make you cry.
Don't worry, I'll bleep that bit out just in case anyone's not seen Infinity War yet, even though it's like 4 years old. Right, well, before we get on to I was going to say the news items in this week's episode, but it is literally one thing we're going to be talking about.
Yes.
Shall we say a massive thank you to our Patreons?
Yes, we should do. Thank you very much to Bobby Socks and Short Gizmo. Your continued support is really appreciated, and thank you very much.
Okay, so it seems like the last couple of days for the Xbox Series S has been pretty rough, as a lot of people are calling into question its viability as a current gen console.
I know, it's really disheartening to hear, especially for us, since we're both
Yeah.
Series S console owners. We're going, do we need to, at some point, have to upgrade to a Series X? But at the same time, I'm kind of like, okay, how bad is it? What sort of limitations is it being created? And there seems to be a lot of developers coming out of the woodwork saying there's an issues with it, isn't there?
Yeah, so a lot of this has been centered around Gotham Knights. It was
Yes.
called, wasn't it?
Yes, yes.
And the fact that even on the most powerful home consoles that we've ever had with the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5, that this game only runs in 30 frames per second. And from what I can tell, sometimes even struggles to hit that.
So why is it a massive issue that they've had to make it that for the Series S?
Right, I'm not a game developer. I feel like this is them just trying to find a scapegoat, if I'm being
Yeah,
honest.
just trying to put blame on
and
something.
blaming the Xbox Series S. That's the target console that they have to develop for, and then they can kind of improve upon that for the other consoles. And although I think that's what they're saying, and they are just using it as a scapegoat, I don't think it makes what they are saying invalid.
Why? Why'd you say what they're saying is valid then?
Well, it's true, isn't it? If you're developing for the home consoles, there's a reason why the Switch doesn't get Call of Duty every year.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Because if they had to target the Switch, then they're going to downgrade the Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5 versions massively because it's going to be that and then they'll build upon it. They're not going to build two completely separate versions of the game, or at least not very often,
No.
because it'll be such a massive cost.
But I think for me, obviously, the Series S fits in such a perfect place where, you don't want to fork out 450, 500 pounds. No, the Series S is perfect for people who haven't got that much money.
Well, yeah, exactly. Not everyone can afford 450, 500 pounds for a console. And let's face it, if you spend that much on a gaming PC, it's not even going to be as good as these high-end consoles.
No, not even. Well, would it really be as good as Series S anyway? Would it?
Well, no, you'd probably be spending double the cost of a Series S to get a gaming PC, which is kind of graphically comparable to it.
Yeah.
Now, take the whole thing, oh, it's a PC, you have other functions. Just take that off the table. We're just talking about as a device to play games on, just to keep it simple. And not only that, don't get me wrong, before we continue with this conversation, and I'm sure you'll agree as well, I love my Xbox Series S. I think it's
100%.
fantastic.
But like you were alluding to earlier, I would appreciate having a console that could play games a lot better, I guess. The best they could be.
I don't play any games on my Xbox Series S. I'm thinking, do you know what? This looks a bit rubbish.
No, not at all.
I'm happy. I'm happy with it. I think they look really good. And most of the time, they play well. Because don't forget, I had a Series X downgraded to the Xbox One X again.
Yeah.
And then kind of upgraded to the Xbox Series S. Which there's things that are better on the Xbox One X than are on the Series X. Like graphically, I think the Xbox One X still has a little bit of an advantage.
Of course, there would be an advantage for the One X, but the Series S, like I said, it's just perfectly placed for it.
Going back to the criticism that a lot of these developers are kind of leveling at the Xbox Series S.
Can I just point out that wasn't just criticism? I mean, Lee Donovan called it a potato.
Yeah, I was going to say a potato. He has actually deleted that tweet, and as of writing this, it appears that he's either made his whole profile private or deleted it as well. Because I can't find any of his tweets anymore, even though I saw them the other day.
I reckon Rocksteady's turned around and said to him, "You cannot do it. Delete it now."
Well, yeah,
he's had his hands slapped, hasn't he?
What's that? We're developing for this current generation console for one of the biggest companies in the world, and you've just called one of the main pillars of the gaming business a potato.
I know. I'll be surprised if he just got a warning from his company, because come on, Microsoft would turn around and be like, "What are you doing? Why are you slating us?"
Yeah, I think he's probably thought, I kind of depend on these people to put money in my pocket and food on my table kind of thing.
Yeah.
Again, although I think he is kind of just pushing the blame onto someone else, I still don't think it makes what he said invalid. And this isn't the first developer who's come out. Unfortunately, the name escapes me, but I'm sure there was someone from id Software, the guys who've done like Doom, for example.
Yeah.
And they've come out and said the GPU in the Series S is going to cause issues later on in the generation as it holds back what can be produced on the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5.
But what I don't get is, okay, so obviously, fair enough, we're getting these come out of the woodworks, and I have seen it float around for the past few days, especially coming from Rocksteady, about Gotham Knights. But why have we not really heard about this before today? Why has it not been so prevalent in the news world, at least, for it to jump out and get us attention to be like, hang on a second, the Series S is causing a lot of issues and it's bottlenecking the gaming industry, sort of thing. Do you know what I mean?
I think what it is because of all the attention that Gotham Knights has got,
Yeah.
this by extension has also got a lot of that attention. And then they've retroactively gone back and gone, well, actually, this guy from id Software said this guy from this other gaming studio said this as well. It's not the first time someone's said the Xbox Series S is basically dead weight almost.
But
In
surely,
fact, there was a developer, I can't remember the company that's from, but called Ian McClure, who actually described the Xbox Series S as an albatross around the neck of production. Now, it's not quite as snappy as calling it a potato, but
no.
it's basically the same sort of thing, isn't it?
But surely, in my opinion at least, Microsoft would have known that there would be issues with, game developers and that doing stuff for their Series S.
I think they would have. I think they would have just thought we were so far behind in the previous generation that hopefully getting something cheap out will help us make up the numbers. And it's not as if the most powerful console always wins. In most generations, it tends to be the weaker console. Not always, but quite
Yeah.
often. If you look back to, I don't know, just pick a random generation, the Mega Drive and the SNES. The SNES was technically better than the Mega Drive. However, in the West, it was the Sega Mega Drive, which was the big seller. PlayStation 2 absolutely dominated that generation.
Oh, yeah, it did.
GameCube and Xbox were massively more powerful.
Yeah.
And the next generation, the Xbox 360, the PlayStation 3, they both done comparably pretty well to each other. But the Wii, like the potato of the generation, just absolutely trounced and just went flying. Just no one could catch it up.
With such a shocking name, which is the butt of so many jokes, and they've just gone, hang on a second. A lot of times it's the underdog.
Yeah, I always remember that. Do you have a Wii? No, up in the toilet.
Yeah. Do you want to go on the Wii? No, thanks. I've been for one.
Yeah. But it shows that a more powerful console isn't necessarily the best console. In fact, off the top of my head, the only generation I can think where that would be true would be the previous generation with the PlayStation 4.
Yeah. So do you reckon, now just thrown out there, obviously Phil Spencer released that image the other week, a couple weeks ago, and we spoke about the possible streaming device coming that was on the shelf.
Yeah.
Do you reckon that might take over the Series S? If there is all these limitations?
See, this is the problem. First of all, if that's a streaming device, that's running on Xbox Series X hardware.
Exactly.
Now, it might be at a low resolution, 1080, but you're still getting all the graphical enhancements that you can get out of them.
Yeah.
And the thing is, you can do that on the original VCR Xbox One. You don't need this streaming box. In fact, earlier on, Elliot was in his bedroom playing Peppa Pig through cloud streaming on my iPad using an Xbox controller.
Yeah.
So you don't even need this console. I don't think that is going to replace the Series S because it's a completely different proposition to what the Series S is.
No, I know. It's just kind of what I don't get is Microsoft would have foreseen this and would have foreseen these issues. So would they not have had some contingency plans in place? Because obviously, as we know, Microsoft turned around and said to developers, if you're creating a game for the Series X, it must come onto the Series S. So
yes.
Developers struggling this much.
I actually agree with that because
so do I.
If you release a game and it's only on the Xbox Series X, why would you go through the effort of making it compatible with the Series S as well? And then what will happen is the Series S, which is meant to be this cheap entry point into the next gen, or well, the current gen now,
Yeah.
of consoles, just becomes this little tiny niche product where you might get like games like Minecraft and Terraria and stuff like that on a pretty low.
Low end sort of games,
Yeah,
not the
yeah,
AAA
not a knock against them, but
titles.
you get like loads of indie games on it, say for example.
Yeah.
But you don't get your AAA Call of Duty or Halo Infinite and that. And then you'll start segmenting the Xbox brand. Oh, I've got an Xbox. Oh, sweet. Do you want to go online? I'm playing Call of Duty later. Oh, no, I've only got the Xbox Series S. I can't play those kind of games on it.
Which would then cause a divide, which would then
Exactly.
sort of get Microsoft a bad name. It will give Microsoft a bad name because it's like, well, what's the point of
Oh,
having
yeah,
two consoles that
absolutely.
aren't compatible with each other?
Imagine that if PlayStation 5 Digital Edition and PlayStation 5 Disc Edition gamers couldn't play with each other or something.
Well, imagine if you had your Series X and I had my Series S. Let's play Grounded. Like, I can't. I'm a Series S. You're an X. So it's
exactly.
like, oh, great. We can't play together then.
And I do think one of the strong points, like going a little bit off topic here, of Xbox over the last few years is you've got an Xbox One, the original one, or an Xbox One X. Oh, okay, yeah. Well, I've got a Series S. You've got a Series X. You're on PC. Let's all play together.
No, exactly. The cross...
Like the cross-platform of it all.
Thank you. The cross-platform, works so seamlessly and works so well. It's such a fantastic way to make it so gamers can play with each other. And Microsoft is even still trying to push for that across multiple games because you can play... I think you can play some games with PlayStation players now.
Yes. Even if Sony don't want you to.
Yeah, but I don't see why it's such a massive issue. I get it. People struggle with the GPU. People struggle with having to get the FPS up. People are struggling to get the hardware working together. But
it's the additional work. So you could make a game where on the Xbox One X, it runs 4K 60 frames, for example, and has 4K textures. Series S, you then need to put extra work in. You then need to go back and lower the quality down for a 1080p or 1440 display, put it at 30 frames per second, and scale back some other settings. So it's more extra work. I think that's the issue. Developers might not have, to be honest, the motivation or even the money to be able to do that.
Because of this project that they put together, which could take 2 years.
Yeah.
Could take, say, 2.5 years because they're having to make the changes to make sure it does work on the Series S. But if we didn't have the Series S, what other options do we have?
Sorry, just really quickly before we go on, a fantastic example of that is Cyberpunk. So that came out, and because they had to optimize it for older systems, like in this case, we're talking about the previous generation, it was so bad that if you were playing on the Xbox One or the PlayStation 4, the experience was terrible to the point where Sony pulled it down and would not even sell it to PlayStation 4 owners. So there has been precedent for it.
Yeah, no, exactly. So is when do we draw the line or when do developers draw a line? But what other alternatives do we have if we didn't have the Series S?
For gamers, you have no cheap entry into console gaming at that point for a current gen console. Now, you do have something like the Switch. So Switch is what, £300, £320 for the full set? Well, for less than that, you can get an Xbox Series S and get into AAA gaming.
Well, yeah, exactly. So you're set up straight away. You're able to, as you said, play the AAA gaming and the online capabilities as well. So, don't get me wrong, online capabilities on the Nintendo Switch aren't really there compared to the Xbox.
Slightly. But not only that, don't get me wrong, I love the Switch. The Switch has loads of brilliant games that I can't play on the Xbox.
Yeah.
But for the big titles each year, you need an Xbox or a PlayStation or a gaming PC.
Yes.
They don't tend to come to Switch.
No, not a chance. Okay, so as we know, an Xbox Series X would set you back up, £450.
Yeah.
A PlayStation 5 would set you back, what, £500 now, are they?
Roughly. Don't forget they increased the price of the PlayStation.
That's what I mean. So, and like you mentioned, a gaming PC. What what we're looking at for that, we're easily looking at Series X levels again, aren't we?
Yeah, well, we had a quick look before, and they're probably not the best places, but we had a look at two retailers in the UK. It was Currys and Argos, wasn't it?
Yes.
And I found on Currys, £700 was their cheapest gaming PC,
Which
which
still wasn't the equivalent to a Series S either, was it?
well, it was roughly
Yeah.
the equivalent Series S. And again, we're not going to talk about the value proposition a PC can be used for other things. We're just talking from a gaming point of view. So,
Yeah.
say my son, your son, wanted something to play games on. And what you go do, you go pay £700 for a gaming PC, or you go pay £500 for a high end console, or you go pay £250 for an Xbox Series S.
Yeah, which runs just about any game you want it to.
Well, yeah,
Or a
exactly.
Series S would easily be the option. I mean, the Series S was my choice of console from this generation.
Well, technically it weren't. It was the Xbox One X, but you weren't allowed to get it. I remember you pre-ordering it.
Thanks for bringing that one up. I was trying to avoid that one. Yes, I pre-ordered the Series X, but then I was told no, so I had to get a Series S instead.
I just didn't ask for permission. I just got it. But in all fairness, I'm as happy now with my Xbox Series S as I was with my Xbox Series X.
Yeah.
The only reason I want to get a Series X again is I want the Halo one. That's it, just for the limited edition version.
Well, that would be cool. I wouldn't mind a disc drive, but at the same time, I think, what's the point?
Well, as we talked about, potentially they might bring one out. I'm not too bad. If I get a disc game, I can still play it in the Xbox One at the moment.
Yeah, so I've got my One S, but it was my DVD player downstairs. Now I've got a Series S and a DVD player on the same shelf. Okay, so as we went over, the validity of the Series S, of how much of a, as you said, a staple it is within the gaming community, with the appeal it's got of it, if Microsoft was to drop it, how much of an issue do you reckon this would cause for Microsoft?
A massive, massive issue. So, realistically, I only see three options for Microsoft, and two of them are terrible. So, they can either go to developers and say, if you want to make it for the Series X, you have to make it for the Series S, which is what we've got at the moment.
Yeah.
Now, potentially, that might mean the developer just goes, all right, then, it's PlayStation exclusive. That's the risk they run with that.
Yeah.
The other two options, which I think are by far much worse, is they could go, okay, drop the requirement for you to do it on the S, which then would mean that a developer goes, all right, well, we're making this massive, great AAA game, this standout title for the year, but you can't get it on the Series S. And then you go start having the store where you see a game and it's like, oh yeah, it works on the Xbox Series X, but not the S.
Yeah.
But this one works on the S and the X. This one works on the S, the X, and the
Just
One.
causes a headache and
Exactly,
a lot of confusion because, well, like you were saying before, when people come in and buy something to take home and they, with the all digital version of the One S,
yeah,
you're going to have the same issue with this. I reckon someone will go to buy the game, take it home, and unless they're told by the staff at the shop, they're going to be trying to play it and like, why can't I play this game, and return it back saying it doesn't run.
Well, not only that, they might get it and they go, oh yeah, I want to play Minecraft on this. My son wants to play Minecraft. And like, oh yeah, play Minecraft. Yeah, you're sorted. But then a year down the line, the kid's like, well, I want to play, I don't know.
GTA.
Yeah, GTA 6. And they're like, oh, it doesn't work. And like, well, I only bought it. It was brand new a year ago. They still sell it. Why doesn't it play this new Xbox game?
Microsoft don't really have that many options, do they?
The only other option they have is kill the Xbox Series S now. If they're going to kill it, it's best to kill it now rather than later, because it's just going to cause more issues.
If I'm completely honest, if they were to kill it, unless they did something to support those Xbox Series S players, I'll be really, really annoyed and angry at them.
Exactly. Everyone will be furious. But what realistically could they do to support you as an Xbox Series S owner?
Exactly.
If they killed it off.
Like, well, that's it. Great, I'm stuffed. I've got this potato, shall I say, that I can't do anything with.
Exactly.
Because they've killed it. And what do I do now? I've just got this out on the shelf for what reason?
Exactly. Again, we're not game developers. We haven't got a clue what we're talking about half the time, and this is
Nah,
definitely one of those times.
nah.
But my argument is the Xbox Series S, yeah, it is less powerful than its bigger brother in the PlayStation 5. However, they're saying, oh, yeah, we can't do this scaling and keep it the same sort of quality, just because of the power. And this is more down to the GPU and maybe the amount of RAM, because it has got 12, I think, instead of 16 gig.
Yeah.
However, I had a quick look on Steam. Every month, they show you what the average sort of specification that the average Steam user is using.
Okay, so sort of across the board, so it's a collection of kind of if you're to build your own game PC, you kind of want these specs.
Yeah, the most common.
Yeah.
So the average Steam user has 16 gig of RAM, which is more than the Xbox Series S, but bear in
Okay.
mind it's got a lighter weight OS, a 6-core CPU. Now the Xbox Series S has a decent CPU in it. I've not heard anyone complaining about the CPU. And a NVIDIA GeForce GTX 1060. That's not a high-end graphics card.
No, compared to I think we looked just before the podcast and we saw that the Xbox Series S has on equivalent of a GTX, what's it, 1650 Ultra.
1650 Super, roughly,
Super, sorry.
yeah. It's
Yeah,
not
so
an exact science.
yeah, so it's better than the 1060 at least.
It's probably very, very close. It's probably not a massive difference.
Yeah.
But we also had a look how much that graphics card is to buy.
Yeah.
Everyone will be out there, PC mastery. Just build a PC. You don't have to pay £700 for that PC we said before, which you don't. Just build your own PC. It'll be much cheaper. You can't get anything close to the specification of an Xbox Series S PC wise for the price it is, unless you're buying secondhand and you get a bargain.
Yeah, no, exactly. If you're to buy this, at least buy all these different parts brand new. You're still looking at about £600, aren't you?
Probably. Even if, say, it's £500, at that point, you may as well get a Series X, which, again, you can't match that price currently for a pre-built or a self-built PC. You had to look at the graphics card. How much was the graphics card alone for something like the 1650?
Well, that was ranging between 200 and 250.
Yeah, so straight away, just for your graphics card, it's the cost of the console. And the thing is, this is the average gaming PC used for Steam.
So it just kind of, the Series S is perfectly placed in the right area for those people who can't afford those 400, 500 plus prices.
Yes, exactly. And not only the people who don't want to afford it, some people can afford it but don't want it. Some people want a little tiny console. Have you seen the new, just like going a little bit off topic again, have you seen the new RTX 4080 graphics cards?
Oh,
which
what,
are like
the one that's like
$1,500.
Nearly about the size of the Series S itself.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
The graphics card is the size of the Xbox Series S. So even if, personally, for me, even if money wasn't an issue, I don't want a big PC, especially one that's got a lot of fans in it and makes a lot of noise. I want something as quiet and small as possible.
I don't even know where to fit a PC that size. I have no space at my desk if it's something like that.
Well, exactly. Some people don't have the space. Someone who, I don't know, is living in university accommodation and has like a little desk, just wants a little console that they can stick on the side, looks nice, even if it does look like an air conditioning unit, and just wants something that's quite discreet, jump on, relax, kick back, play some games. Doesn't have to be 4K, doesn't have to be 120 hertz. It just needs to look good and play well.
Yeah, something reliable and runs. So, don't want bells and whistles, which is what the Series S is. And it still looks nice.
Exactly. And the thing is, again, we've been playing a lot of Grounded recently, and I can tell as we're walking along, I can see shadows drawing in the distance, which I'm sure if I had a high-end gaming PC or an Xbox Series X would be pushed way further away from me.
Yes.
But I still look at it and I think, this looks nice. It looks good. I play Halo Infinite and I think, this looks good.
Yeah, I don't look at it and think, I'm disappointed at this. At all, I've never looked at a game and thought, I can tell this is not on a Series X. It doesn't make that much of a difference to me. as long as it plays and it runs smoothly and it looks nice, which is kind of what the Series S does, I'm happy.
Yeah. Gameplay is king. It doesn't matter how nice your game looks. If it plays poorly, it's no fun.
No, exactly.
Again, I've never looked at my Series S, been playing a game, and think, do you know what? This is a potato.
No, thankfully not.
Do you think Microsoft should consider, I'm not saying they should do it, but consider either dropping support completely for the Xbox Series S or dropping the requirement for developers to make games on the Series S? Because part of the argument is, yeah, it might be just good enough today. You know, today it roughly matches what the average Steam user's got as a gaming PC. But in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, you know, we've been having
What's to say
generation.
that they won't increase around in it? What's to say they won't to look to change some of the specifications in it? You know,
Well,
to do a revised model at least.
Well, yeah, they can do midlife refreshes, but as we've seen with the original Xbox, which was somewhat underpowered when that came out back in 2013, that's kind of become a sticking point for a lot of these games as well. Again, going back to Cyberpunk, that ran poorly on the original Xbox and even the Series S.
I think if Microsoft really wanted to absolutely shoot themselves in the foot, no, they'll do it. But I think they've relied so much and so heavily on the Series S, and they've used the Series S as such a pinnacle for helping gamers, you know, with the smallest, most powerful console and play games. If they were to pull it out of nowhere and then there's no alternative, I think they'll be shooting themselves in the foot and really giving themselves a bad name.
Exactly. And the thing is, as much as I've, for the last 4 generations, been an Xbox gamer, if they done that and then the next generation they go, oh yeah, we've got the Xbox 5 and the Xbox 5 Mini or something, you know, a cheaper entry into it, I'd be like, do you know what? I don't trust you.
Well, no, that's the thing. They'll then now cast doubt in your mind because you think, they're going to do the exact same thing and I'm going to have to go through the same process of, do I buy a Series X? What do I do?
Personally, I think the right choice would be to stick with the Series S. And again, not only because it's what I've got, but so many people have the Series S. Loads of places the Series S outsells the Xbox Series X. And a lot of that is to do with the price. You know, it's a lower price entry into the current generation. But there was plenty of times when you just couldn't get hold of an Xbox Series X. So if you wanted to get into the next generation and play, I don't know, Flight Simulator, a game that doesn't work on the Xbox One, well, you could get a Series S.
Now, as far as I'm aware, premium if I'm wrong, Microsoft haven't come back to any of these claims about the Series S and about being asked to be.
No.
So at some point, Microsoft will have to address these. They can't leave it. They can't stay quiet.
I don't know if they'll address them directly, to be honest. Now, in the past, they have actually optimized. I'm not sure whether it was the SDK for the console or if it was the actual software running on the console, and they've reclaimed like an extra half a gig for developers to use. So they do keep optimizing the console to get a little bit more power out of it when they can. But I don't think they'll directly come out and go, Microsoft's stance on this is that the Xbox Series S is here to stay. It is not a potato. You cannot eat it. I think it would be pretty much suicide for them to discontinue the Xbox Series S, and it would be massively harmful for them to drop the requirement to release games on both the Series S and the X at the same time.
Well, to me, thinking about all the launches that coming up to the Xbox Series X and the S coming out, I feel like a lot of pressure is put on the S. Do you know what I mean? They were pushing so much at being the cheapest, smallest home console.
Yeah.
Which it is, but I feel they really, really sold it and really, use that to push them forwards, which I think it has pushed them so far compared to the previous generations. If they were to cancel it, like you said, it'd just be suicide.
If you look in Japan, where traditionally, well, not traditionally, they still are, where Microsoft do poorly.
Yes.
The Xbox Series S is selling much better than the Xbox One ever did.
Well, no, there's a massive boom after the Tokyo Game Show, wasn't there?
Well, yeah. It actually beat out the PlayStation 5.
Yeah.
I think it was for a week or two after the Tokyo Game
Obviously,
Show.
there's no other Switch, but I think anything with ever
Yeah, I
missed.
don't think anything
But
near the Switch.
yeah, no, beat the PlayStation 5 did really well.
Just really quickly, the Switch, people moan it's underpowered, but I don't really hear a lot of people saying, oh, it's ruining this generation. Bear in mind, the Switch is still part of this same generation.
That's the thing. I think people don't really take it into so much consideration because it hasn't got those AAA games. But
Yeah.
no one complains about that. No one says anything negative against it.
Yeah, I find it weird that people go, oh, the Xbox Series S, the new Doom Eternal, you know, it looks rubbish. It's holding back its bigger console counterparts. It's
Yeah.
ruining this generation. And then like a really, really potato-fied version of it comes out on the Switch. And like, oh my god, this is an amazing port that they've squeezed it into a Nintendo Switch. And you're like, what are you on about? It looked great on the Xbox. It doesn't look amazing like it does on the Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5. But then you see this blurry mess on the Switch and you're praising it for being this massive achievement.
Yeah, how can you see what you're doing on a little tiny Switch playing Doom Eternal?
Well, yeah, it's not really that. You just hold it really close to your face. It does feel like it's one rule for the Switch, one rule for the Xbox sometimes, but
No, definitely.
I think it is going to hold the generation back, honestly, a little bit. But I think it's not as bad as it's being made out to be. I've heard people say, oh, there's whole new genres that you can't do now because of the Series S. No,
What new genres?
if someone makes a new genre, they'll find a creative way to get around it.
Oh, they will do. If they're good enough, they will definitely find a way to get past it.
And if they're not good enough, they'll just blame the Series S anyway.
Yeah. Well, it seems though a couple of people have. A poor woman blends the tools. That's the only way to put it.
I suppose we'll see over the next couple of years, because I think if this is going to be an issue, it's going to be an issue as we start moving away from the previous generations and games aren't cross-generation like they currently are.
How long? Has it been 2 years now since they came out?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yes.
2 years next month.
2 years. Yeah.
Mm.
If I'm honest, it's a bit of a sore subject with me because, me and you, Series S owners, so I don't really want it to go anywhere. But at the same time, I don't want it to be hampering the gaming industry if developers are struggling on it.
I don't think it is. I think developers obviously want as much power as they can. However, you've got to think, especially nowadays with the cost of everything going up and up and up, a lot of people just can't spend £500 on a console.
Or justify it.
Yeah, or justify it. £250 for a Series S is kind of, it's expensive. Don't get me wrong, it's not inexpensive. It's a lot of money still, but it's a lot more palatable, isn't it?
Yeah.
But then again, we're only 2 years into what potentially could be another 8-year console generation.
Guess we'll just have to wait and see over the next sort of coming year or two to see if Microsoft do decide to make any changes.
Come on, let's make our predictions. What do you think is the future of the Series S?
I don't know. It's a hard one to fathom, but I think that the current console as it is will struggle in about a year to come.
I don't think it'll struggle. I think anyone who makes a good game and is competent will be able to work around its limitations, and maybe it might hold some of the other consoles back, and maybe smaller developers, I'm not talking about indie, I'm talking like your mid-tier developers, may have less success in bringing games to the Series S than your larger developers who can put a little bit more resources into it. But I think it'll be fine. I'm not being funny, because if you look back to the original Xbox One and the Xbox One S, which was barely more powerful, they survived the entire generation. Even now, they're still getting games.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be the same with the Series S.
Now, the one important word you said there, though, is about the competency of developers. You're relying on... that's
I'm not having to go at Rocksteady and the developers. A lot of things can affect games. Budget, time, competency.
Yeah.
Listen, I used Unity and I can make my character walk to the right. I know what I'm on about.
Yeah, but no, isn't that you can make him walk to the right when you press left, though?
No, you press right, you move to the right. He just was facing to the left.
Oh, that was it.
It wasn't a bug. It wasn't a bug. It
walking
was a feature. He was moonwalking. That's my excuse. No, like ultimately, we're talking about this from basically a point of ignorance, to be honest.
Yeah, just ignorance.
Dunning-Kruger effects, you know a little tiny thing and you become quite dangerous with that knowledge. But just from my experience seeing what has happened in previous generations, I think it'll be all right. I don't think they'll drop it until the next Xbox comes out, at which point they'll drop the Series X as well.
Yeah, they would do. Developers, put your socks up, get on with it, make it for the current consoles regardless, and stop complaining, please.
And no, we do appreciate your work.
Oh, 100% we do. We do.
I'm Barry, and this is the end of the episode. If you'd like to find out more about anything mentioned, then please visit the show notes or our website. We've been the Retro Gaming Dads, and we'll see you next time.